The Galactic Empire, a massive and powerful force spanning countless star systems, had ruled with an iron fist for centuries. The Empire controlled entire worlds, its fleets of warships and vast armies spreading fear across the galaxy. Every race, from the smallest species to the most advanced civilizations, bowed before the Emperor's will. But in the far reaches of the galaxy, on a small, seemingly insignificant planet called Earth, something was changing. On Earth, humans had faced a long history of struggle. Wars, natural disasters, and near-extinction events had torn their civilization apart. But through sheer determination, they had rebuilt their world. Over centuries, humanity advanced faster than any other species in the galaxy, developing technologies that even the greatest minds of the Empire couldn't have predicted. While the Empire focused on maintaining control, humanity focused on survival and innovation. The story begins when the Empire received an unusual transmission. A single encrypted message came through the galactic network. It was short, simple, and carried the weight of a threat that none of the Empire's commanders took seriously. Humanity is coming. The message wasn't from an unknown race. It was from humans themselves. But it seemed impossible. The Empire's leaders laughed at the audacity of the message. How could such a primitive species, one that had only recently begun to explore space, pose any threat to their mighty empire? The highest officials in the Empire brushed it off as a joke. A minor race, weak and divided, sending a message that could barely be considered a threat. The Emperor himself scoffed. Humans, let them come. We'll crush them as we have done with all others before, he declared, shaking his head in disbelief. The military commanders, too, were dismissive. This is nothing but a prank. No one can challenge the Empire. Yet, as the weeks passed, a small faction within the Empire began to question the warning. A few intelligence officers, who had studied Earth's rapid progress, felt a creeping sense of unease. The humans had been growing stronger, faster, and more organized with each passing year. But this small group of officers was overruled by the majority, who considered them overly cautious. Despite the Empire's confidence, the humans weren't wasting time. Humanity's fleet, a true marvel of engineering and strategy, began its long journey toward the heart of the Empire. It wasn't just a fleet of warships. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience. The fleet was built using cutting-edge technology, much of it developed in secret, and it operated like a well-oiled machine. The ships were sleek, fast, and armed with weaponry far more advanced than anything the Empire had ever encountered. What made it even more terrifying for the Empire was that humanity wasn't just sending a fleet. They were sending a message that would echo through the entire galaxy. While the Empire laughed and continued its business as usual, humanity's fleet was on its way. Earth's leaders had made the decision. They would no longer be a silent, insignificant species. If the Empire wanted to rule the galaxy, it had to deal with humanity. The message was clear, even if the Empire refused to understand it. And then, as the days passed, something unexpected happened. The Empire's outer colonies, those that lay closest to the edge of the galaxy, began to report strange sightings. Ships, unlike anything they had ever seen, appeared on their scanners. At first, they thought it was a malfunction. But when the ships drew closer, the reports became undeniable. Humanity's fleet was real, and it was massive. The Empire's reaction was swift. Military forces were mobilized, and their most powerful fleets were dispatched to intercept the human armada before it could get any closer. But as they prepared for battle, they still couldn't shake the disbelief. How could a species so young, so inexperienced, be capable of organizing such a fleet? And why now? The question lingered, but the Empire was too proud to entertain the thought that humanity might actually pose a threat. The Empire's high command issued orders to attack immediately, convinced that it would be an easy victory. They couldn't have been more wrong. As humanity's fleet entered the Empire's space, the first shots were fired. What followed was a series of battles that no one could have predicted. Even as the Empire sent wave after wave of warships, they were overwhelmed by the sheer strength and cunning of the humans. The first skirmishes were over quickly. Humanity's ships moved with precision, striking with an accuracy that left the Empire's commanders stunned. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had arrived, and they were not here to play games. The Empire was about to learn the hard way that humanity was not a force to be underestimated. The Empire's response to humanity's unexpected arrival was swift, but it was far from effective. The first encounter occurred on the edge of the Empire's outer colonies, where a small fleet of human ships had appeared like ghosts on the scanners. The Empire's commanders thought it would be an easy mission. Their enormous, heavily armed fleets could easily wipe out this insignificant human force. But they were wrong. The human ships were unlike anything the Empire had encountered. They were fast, faster than anything in the Empire's arsenal, and agile. The humans had developed technology that seemed to defy logic. Their ships glided through space with an eerie precision, making it nearly impossible for the Empire's warships to hit them. The first few shots fired by the Empire missed, causing their commanders to question their calculations. Soon, those questions turned into panic as the human fleet launched a counterattack. Humanity's ships fired with deadly accuracy, destroying one of the Empire's smaller warships in a matter of seconds. The humans weren't simply relying on sheer firepower. They used tactics that left the Empire's military leaders dumbfounded. They coordinated their attacks in ways that seemed too precise for a species just beginning to explore space. They understood the weaknesses of the Empire's fleet, exploiting every flaw with expert precision. The Empire's response was chaotic. Fleet commanders, still underestimating humanity, attempted to surround the human ships, but the humans had already anticipated this. Using fast-moving stealth ships, they darted in and out of the shadows of nearby asteroids, picking off stragglers and isolating targets. The Empire's advanced fleets were now stuck in a cat-and-mouse game, with human ships seemingly everywhere at once. In the chaos, many of the Empire's soldiers grew terrified. They couldn't understand what they were up against. The human fleet didn't just fight with strength. They fought with cunning, making every move count. The humans had mastered the art of war on a level that was unimaginable to the Empire. Every battle was a masterclass in tactics, and it became clear to the Empire that this was not a battle they could win with brute force alone. Back in the Empire's high command, the situation grew dire. The commanders received reports from their outer colonies, each one confirming the same disturbing news. Humanity was advancing quickly, and no amount of firepower seemed to slow them down. It was as if the human fleet was everywhere at once. The higher-ranking officials in the Empire were in disbelief, still unable to fully comprehend the scale of the threat. They refused to acknowledge that a species they had long ignored was capable of such an organized and devastating military strategy. At this moment, one Imperial officer, General Varric, decided to investigate. He had heard whispers about the humans and their ingenuity. Though most of his colleagues were convinced the humans were nothing more than a nuisance, Varric was different. He had spent years studying ancient military strategies, and something about humanity's approach seemed familiar. It was a style of warfare that he had seen in old Earth records, one that relied on adaptability and the ability to improvise in the face of adversity. He had never seen it in action before, but now it was undeniable. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. General Varric knew that if they didn't act quickly, the entire empire could be in danger. He demanded an emergency meeting with the Emperor himself, urging the ruler to take humanity's fleet seriously. But the Emperor, ever the optimist, dismissed Varric's warnings as overreaction. Humanity is nothing. Their fleet is a flash in the pan, nothing more, the Emperor declared. Yet, as the days passed and the human fleet advanced deeper into imperial space, it became clearer that the situation was far from under control. The Empire's military ships, once symbols of might, were now retreating in the face of the human onslaught. The humans seemed to be everywhere, striking from unexpected angles, and retreating just as quickly, leaving the Empire's forces confused and demoralized. Humanity's message was spreading across the galaxy, carried by both their ships and their rapidly growing allies. Their broadcasts, delivered with chilling calmness, showed the destruction of Imperial warships and outposts, but also offered a glimpse of hope for the oppressed races within the Empire. The Empire's reign of terror is over, the humans declared. Join us, or face the consequences. It was a message that sent shockwaves through the galaxy. As the humans gained ground, more and more systems began to question their loyalty to the Empire. Some started to rise up, rallying to humanity's cause. Others, who had lived under the Empire's boot for generations, saw the humans as their last hope for freedom. The Empire's grip on the galaxy, which had once seemed unbreakable, was starting to slip. The arrival of humanity's fleet was no longer a simple matter of war. It was the beginning of a revolution, one that would change the fate of the entire galaxy. And despite the Empire's best efforts, it seemed that humanity was prepared to win at any cost. The situation in the Empire had reached a boiling point. The human fleet, once underestimated and ignored, was now a constant threat. After weeks of battles, the Empire's military was beginning to fracture. The vast warships and their towering armies, which had once been symbols of dominance, were now retreating in disarray. Each victory the humans achieved seemed to fuel their drive even more. But what frightened the Empire most was how fast the humans were learning from each engagement, adapting to every tactic, and improving their strategies with each passing day. Inside the Empire's war rooms, panic began to take root. Imperial commanders, who had spent their lives studying the art of war, were now helpless against the human fleet. Their ships, designed for brute force and overwhelming firepower, were slow and easy targets for the humans. The smaller, more agile human vessels swooped in, striking fast and retreating before the Empire could react. The Empire's superior numbers meant little when their ships could barely land a blow on the enemy. Meanwhile, humanity's fleet seemed to grow stronger with every battle. The initial encounters were hard-fought, but now, their ships were moving with unshakable confidence. They seemed to anticipate every move the Empire made, outsmarting them at every turn. The human commanders were relentless, quick to adapt, and even quicker to exploit the Empire's weaknesses. Even the Empire's most advanced technology seemed powerless against the humans' unpredictability. As the human fleet advanced deeper into the heart of the Empire, they encountered an unexpected ally. Rebellious factions within the Empire's own colonies. Planets that had long been under Imperial rule, oppressed by the Emperor's harsh policies, began to send messages to the humans, offering to help. They provided crucial intelligence, advising humanity on the weaknesses of the Empire's military installations, supply lines, and hidden secrets. The Empire had always ruled with an iron fist, but it had neglected the very people it sought to control. Those people, once kept in line by fear, were now rallying behind the human cause. In the wake of the human victories, many saw hope for the first time in generations. The rebels joined forces with humanity, offering ships, weapons, and critical knowledge. With this new support, the human fleet grew even more powerful, and their forces stretched farther across the galaxy. Back in the Imperial capital, Emperor Marduk paced angrily through his war room. His empire, once unchallenged, was on the verge of collapse. How had things gone so wrong? How had a species that was so small, so insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy, become such a threat? The Emperor couldn't understand it. But what was worse was the growing realization that the Empire was losing its control. The human fleet was cutting through Imperial defenses like a hot knife through butter. In an act of desperation, Marduk ordered the entire Imperial fleet to launch a massive counteroffensive. His fleet, now consisting of the Empire's most elite forces, would surround and obliterate the human fleet once and for all. The humans would be crushed under the weight of Imperial might. It was a final push to stop the revolution before it gained any more momentum. The battle that followed would go down in history as one of the most decisive moments in the galaxy's long struggle. The Empire sent everything they had, warships, elite soldiers, and vast fleets, to confront the humans. The humans, however, were ready. At the heart of the battle, human ships, now aided by their new allies, moved with an unmatched precision. They struck at the Empire's weak points, its supply ships, its weakly guarded outposts, and its communications lines. The Empire's massive warships were slowed by the fast-moving human forces. Their technology, once thought to be invincible, seemed outdated in the face of the human ingenuity. And then, the tide truly turned. The humans launched a massive assault on the Empire's flagship, a symbol of their power, the Emperor's Fury. The human ships dove into battle with unparalleled determination, evading the Empire's defenses and overwhelming the flagship's once unbeatable shields. In a series of carefully executed moves, the humans disabled the Emperor's Fury and destroyed its central core, sending the mighty warship tumbling into the depths of space. The loss of the flagship sent shockwaves through the Empire. It was a blow so significant that even the Emperor, who had refused to acknowledge the human threat until now, was forced to recognize the scale of the disaster. The loss of their strongest warship was a sign to the galaxy that the Empire could no longer maintain its control. The human fleet, now emboldened, had struck a devastating blow to the heart of the Empire's power. The Empire, once proud and untouchable, was now in chaos. As the human fleet and their allies gained ground, more planets began to rebel, inspired by humanity's strength and resolve. The rebellion spread like wildfire, and it seemed that the Empire's days were numbered. For the first time, it was the humans who held the upper hand. And as the Empire's leaders scrambled to regroup, they were faced with a terrifying truth. Humanity's fleet wasn't just fighting for survival. It was fighting to change the very fabric of the galaxy. And they were winning. The battle for the galaxy had reached its turning point. The Empire, once an unstoppable force, was now on the edge of collapse. Humanity's fleet had dealt blow after blow to the heart of the Empire. And their allies, the oppressed colonies, had joined the rebellion with a vengeance. The stars that had once belonged to the Empire were now filled with the fires of revolt. What was once a vast and powerful force was now crumbling under the weight of its own arrogance. Inside the imperial capital, Emperor Marduk sat on his throne, his face twisted in frustration and disbelief. His once proud empire was falling apart, and he couldn't stop it. His generals and military leaders, who had once been confident in their superiority, now trembled before the might of humanity. They had underestimated the humans at every turn, and now their fate was sealed. Marduk was desperate. He knew that if humanity's fleet could continue to gain ground, it would only be a matter of time before the empire fell entirely. The rebellion was spreading, and more systems were joining the human cause. The empire's once secure control was slipping away, and there was no way to hold back the tide of change. In a final act of defiance, Marduk ordered the creation of the empire's last-ditch weapon, a massive superweapon capable of obliterating entire fleets in one blow. This weapon, known as the Galactic Hammer, had been under construction in secret for years, and now, in humanity's moment of triumph, it would be their downfall. It was the last hope for the Empire's survival, and Marduk was determined to use it. As the construction of the Galactic Hammer neared completion, the human fleet learned of its existence. Their spies and rebel allies had managed to intercept Imperial communications, and the news spread like wildfire. Humanity knew that if the Galactic Hammer was activated, it could destroy entire fleets, and even the human fleet itself. This weapon could bring an end to their revolution and crush the dreams of freedom for billions of beings across the galaxy. But the humans weren't afraid. Instead of retreating or waiting for the Empire to strike, they gathered their forces for one final push. They knew that they had to destroy the Galactic Hammer before it could fire. If they failed, the galaxy would be lost forever. The human fleet, now stronger and more experienced than ever, set course for the Empire's capital, where the superweapon was hidden. It was a mission that carried immense risk. The Galactic Hammer was heavily guarded, surrounded by the most advanced Imperial defenses. But the humans had something the Empire did not: the will to fight for a future free from tyranny. Led by Admiral Lena Strayton, the human fleet launched their most daring attack yet. They navigated through the heart of Imperial space, facing waves of enemy warships and defense platforms. The Empire threw everything they had at them, but the humans were relentless. Their ships moved with unmatched precision, dodging blasts, outmaneuvering traps, and striking the Empire's defenses where they were weakest. They fought not just with advanced technology, but with a fire in their hearts that the Empire had never known. As the battle raged on, the human fleet made their way to the Imperial capital. They cut through the outer defenses like a hot knife through butter, pushing forward with a single goal in mind: to reach the Galactic Hammer and destroy it before it could be activated. The space around the capital became a chaotic battlefield, with explosions lighting up the darkness of space and the sounds of war filling the airwaves. In the heart of the Empire, Emperor Marduk watched the battle unfold. His last hope, the Galactic Hammer, was under attack, and he could do nothing to stop it. The humans had already reached the outer defenses of the superweapon, and they were getting closer. In his desperation, Marduk ordered every available ship to defend the weapon at all costs. He could not afford to lose it. But the humans had anticipated this move. They had already infiltrated the Imperial communications network and sabotaged the Empire's war plans. As the Imperial fleet moved to block the human advance, the human ships split into smaller, faster units, attacking from multiple directions. They fought like shadows, elusive and deadly, making it nearly impossible for the Empire to mount an effective defense. And then, as the human fleet breached the final line of defense, they saw the Galactic Hammer, a massive, terrifying weapon designed to destroy entire fleets in one devastating blast. It was protected by a fortress of Imperial warships and defense shields, but the humans had a plan. Admiral Strayton, in a final desperate maneuver, ordered the human fleet to engage in a synchronized assault, overwhelming the defenses with everything they had. With a barrage of firepower and flawless precision, the humans brought down the shields surrounding the Galactic Hammer. The human fleet then struck the heart of the superweapon, destroying its core and causing a massive explosion that sent shockwaves through the Imperial capital. The Empire's last hope was gone. As the debris from the Galactic Hammer drifted into the void of space, the human fleet emerged victorious. They had won the battle, and with it, the future of the galaxy. The Empire's power was shattered, and the oppressive regime that had ruled for centuries had finally been brought to its knees. The revolution had succeeded. For the first time in history, the galaxy was free from the Empire's rule. Humanity's fleet had arrived to obliterate the Galactic Empire, and in the process, they had changed the fate of the universe forever. The destruction of the Galactic Hammer had been a decisive blow to the Empire, but the war was not yet over. With the superweapon destroyed, the human fleet pressed on, its forces stronger than ever. The Empire, shattered and reeling, was in disarray. The once mighty fleet, now leaderless and broken, was no longer capable of mounting a serious defense. The rebellion, fueled by humanity's success, surged across the galaxy, liberating one system after another from the Empire's grip. On the planets that had long suffered under Imperial rule, the people rejoiced. They had heard the whispers of hope, the rumors that humanity's fleet was coming, that the end of the Empire was near. And now it was happening. The once impossible dream of freedom was becoming reality. Colonies and oppressed civilizations, united by the human cause, now stood side by side in the fight for a better future. Admiral Lena Strayton stood on the bridge of the human flagship, gazing out at the vastness of space. The galaxy, once filled with the oppressive shadow of the Empire, now seemed like a place full of possibilities. The human fleet had not only defeated the greatest military power the galaxy had ever known, but they had also given hope to the millions of beings who had long been oppressed. But even as she felt the thrill of victory, Straighten knew the war was far from over. The Empire still held some of its most important strongholds, and its remnants, though weak, were not completely defeated. "We've come a long way, but the galaxy is still far from free," Straighten said quietly to herself. Her mind raced with thoughts of the battles ahead. The Empire's capital was still heavily fortified, and it was clear that the last remnants of Marduk's regime would fight to the bitter end. But humanity's fleet had proven itself to be relentless. They had struck down every obstacle in their path, and now they would strike at the heart of the Empire itself. In the halls of the imperial capital, chaos reigned. Emperor Marduk, once a symbol of power, now hid in the deepest, most secure chambers of his palace. His empire was collapsing, and he knew it. The people who had once worshipped him now turned against him, their loyalties broken by the Empire's failures. The planets that had once cowered under his rule were rising up, and Marduk could do little more than watch in helpless rage. But Marduk was not ready to surrender. Though his empire was crumbling, he still had one final card to play. There were still loyalists, still remnants of his army scattered across the galaxy. Marduk knew that if he could rally his remaining forces, he might still have a chance. But even as he thought this, the walls of his palace began to tremble with the sound of human warships drawing closer. The final battle was about to begin. Meanwhile, in the outer reaches of space, human forces were preparing for the last phase of the war. They had already liberated dozens of systems and struck down Imperial warships at every turn. But the final victory would require a strike at the very heart of the Empire. Marduk's palace, located on the heavily defended capital planet, was the last stronghold of the Imperial regime. Taking it would mean the complete and utter collapse of the Empire. Admiral Straighten knew the risks. The capital was heavily defended, and the Empire's most elite troops guarded the Emperor himself. It would not be an easy task, but humanity had already proven its resolve. They had faced impossible odds and come out victorious. Now, the humans would fight one final time to end the Empire's reign of terror and secure the future for the galaxy. The human fleet gathered at the edges of Imperial space, preparing for their final assault. It was a coordinated effort like no other. The fleet would strike at the heart of the capital, while ground forces, including rebel forces from the Empire's former colonies, would land and neutralize any remaining Imperial loyalists. The final push would be a battle unlike any before it. As the fleet advanced, Straighten could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. This was the moment that would define the future of the galaxy. The last remnants of the Empire would either fall, or they would live to fight another day. She knew there was no turning back. The battle for the galaxy's soul was about to reach its conclusion. The human fleet moved forward, its ships gleaming in the cold void of space. Every ship, every soldier, every rebel who had fought for freedom now stood together in this final fight. It was a fight for the galaxy, for the future, and for everything humanity had fought for. The battle would be fierce, and the stakes could not be higher. But as the human fleet prepared to enter the heart of the Empire, one thing was clear: humanity's resolve could never be broken. The galaxy was on the brink of a new era, and the humans would be the ones to shape its future.